All right. Well, hi, hello. Welcome to the webinar, Growing Your Healthcare Business, a CFO's Guide. Now, today's exciting webinar is sponsored by Sage and Microsoft and produced by SmartBrief. My name is Jess Steinbach. I'm with SmartBrief, and I'm so happy that I get to be your moderator for this webinar because I love this idea of thinking like a CFO. How cool is that? What does that actually mean to us to think like a CFO? Now, for some of you out there, maybe that's what you're already doing every day. You're already a CFO. You think like that all the time. So we're just, we're going to hang out in your head today. But maybe for some of you, this is an opportunity to stretch your mindset a little bit, right? To step into that role and that strategic and growth-oriented mindset of a CFO. Because today we are specifically exploring the importance of integrating cloud-based financial systems with your clinical data and how this can truly enhance and enable scalability in your organization. This is such an exciting growth opportunity for healthcare organizations just like yours. And today we will explore all the action steps, the trends, and the possibilities that it entails. Now, in order to guide us through this fascinating conversation, we will be joined by two incredible experts here with us, a leading financial management specialist from Sage and a Microsoft industry expert. There is so much ahead of us, so much to explore together. So we're going to zip through a few important housekeeping points, and then we will get this show on the road. I want to start out, as always, with a bit of a guided tour of your audience console. We're going to take a little stroll through your console together. Let's start in the questions section because this is the most important part of a conversation like we're about to engage in. You have the opportunity to reach out directly to these two wonderful experts who are here with us, and they want to hear from you. So get those questions in. Make sure that you're submitting those questions as we go through our session. We're going to do our best to answer as we go through, and then we're going to do some Q&A at the end. So we will get you some responses back to your wonderful questions. You can give it a little test run right now. I see all kinds of great people. Hey, Bruce, good afternoon back to you in Burlington. Gilbert and Jonathan, and we've got Vrej. We've got a whole community, Tony, Heather. We've got a great crew of people here with us today. We want to keep hearing from you. So keep saying hi, keep saying hello now, and then keep getting those questions in as we go through. Hey, Jeffress from Waukegan. Cool. All right, Jeffrey from Waukegan. All right. Well, and on that note, if you're using that questions window today to say hi, hello, and ask questions, it is also a good place to let us know if you're having any technical issues. Now, hopefully that doesn't come up, but we all know that webinars, occasionally a tech gremlin gets in the system there. So if something comes up for you, the very first thing you're going to try is you're going to do a browser refresh. Give that browser refresh a try. If that doesn't work for you, you can post in that questions window, and the SmartBrief team will be there to help you out. We are with you throughout. So if any questions come up, if you have any tech gremlins in your system, let us know, and we'll give you a hand there. Okay, I want to move things along. So we're hanging out in the handout section or in the question section. Now, see, my brain's already one step ahead. We were in the question section. We're going to move to the handout section. Now, this handout section is absolutely full of cool resources and takeaways. This is a really important part of the conversation that we're engaging in today because we're going to learn a lot of cool stuff, and then you're going to want to follow up on it. You're going to want to learn more, I promise you. So make sure you spend some time in that handouts tab, get those resources, hold on to them, save them for after we wrap so you can spend some time digging into them, exploring a little bit as you go about your day. Maybe you want to start a little book club with your colleagues and your friends and tell them all the cool things that you learned from our expert presenters today. All right, so we did our questions tab, we did our handouts tab. The last thing I want to point out is that we do have a $250 Amazon gift card that we will be giving away as a prize drawing at the end of our webinar. Now, you do need to be here in live attendance at the webinar in order to qualify to win, and all winners must meet the SmartBrief prize terms and conditions. They are located there for you right back in that handouts tab that we were just chatting about. So click into the handouts tab, scroll all the way through all those incredible treasure trove of resources, and then you will find the prize terms and conditions waiting for you there. All right, well, with that was all the housekeeping information. It's a lot of important information that we have to cover, but really now it's time to get into the good stuff. And I know that you are all very excited to get into this conversation because there's a lot to cover and a lot to explore. And I'd like to introduce you to our wonderful expert guides as we go through this conversation. Now, today we have two incredible presenters here with us. We will be chatting with Melissa O'Dowd, Healthcare Industry Lead, Sage Intacct, and we also have joining us in the near future here, the very not too distant future, Heather Brevard, Senior Azure App Innovation Specialist at Microsoft. Now, Heather's going to come out in just a second. Melissa, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
Yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff on the horizon, and I know that you have a lot to get into. Before I hand things over to you, though, I am going to kick you off with an intro question, Melissa. We're starting out in the hot seat already.
All
We're
right. I'm
if we
ready.
can jump, you're ready. I could tell. I knew you can handle it. And you know what? Just for that, I'm gonna make it a two-part question. I'm gonna throw a real curveball at you. Here we go. Melissa, can you start us out by giving us a little bit of information about Sage and just making sure that everyone in the audience understands who we're here and what we're talking about today? And then on that note, I think it would also be great to start with a little bit of, while you're building that foundation, where we're kind of at and what the trends are in healthcare, and specifically when we're talking about finance and healthcare. So I'm going to kick that over to you,
All
Melissa.
right. Two great questions to kick things off. All right. So who's Sage? Sage is a global company, global software company. We work with millions of small and medium-sized businesses to help make their businesses flow. Those millions of customers use Sage Intact's products in finance, HR, and payroll to make their lives easier for not only their employees, but their customers as well. And so I specifically work with Sage Intacct, which is Sage's cloud-based financial management system. And it encompasses your basic accounting and ERP, planning tools, payroll and HR, as well as analytics. In addition to that, we've taken a best-in-class approach. So we actually have a very, very robust, wide, expanding ecosystem of partners and companies that we work with that connect into our technology stack through open APIs and integrations to really truly embody that whole concept of making business flow. Rather than being everything for everyone, we want to lean into those solutions that are best in class in the market, whether it's CRM or cloud management or invoicing, AP, payroll, whatever you might want to use in your ecosystem. And this is particularly important in healthcare. We want to be able to connect into that because, especially in the world of healthcare, every healthcare organization is a little different. There are all different types of electronic medical record systems, all different types of specialty areas that all have specific needs. And if we were a closed system and not able to lean in and pull data in from all of those places, we would really be putting our healthcare customers specifically at a disadvantage. So this whole ecosystem approach is mission critical in healthcare for us at Sage. And when it comes to healthcare at Sage, Sage Intacct really has taken a very deep investment in the healthcare space. We are HIPAA compliant and have that capability. So if you're using patient information within Sage Intacct, it's secure. We have over 3,000 healthcare customers on Sage Intacct, and these are companies that are very, very small all the way up to large healthcare companies that are both domestically in the US and also internationally. So we really serve a wide variety of types and sizes of healthcare organizations that span many, many specialty areas, as well as many different structures, whether they are MSOs and DSOs or PE backed or provider owned or part of large health systems. We really run the gamut in how we serve this market specifically. And our customer satisfaction in these areas is apparent. We're designated as peer reviewed by the Healthcare Financial Management Association, which means that our features and functionality meet the needs of the healthcare market specifically. And our healthcare customers on G2 and Trust Radius really, show that or demonstrate that the success they're seeing, their ability to grow their healthcare organizations using Sage Intacct as the backbone of their financial management system is apparent. So Jess said something earlier about getting into the heads of our CFOs and thinking like a CFO. And so whether we have CFOs on the call today, or maybe we've got controllers or billing managers that are aspiring to be CFOs or CFO-like, let's get into the head of the CFO. So Sage not long ago did a lot of research into understanding the secrets of a successful CFO. We interviewed 1,200 finance leaders across industries. And we really wanted to understand how the role is changing and how it's expanding. And so what I've done today is I've pulled a little bit of data out of this report that's specific for healthcare and what our healthcare respondents said, because the results in some ways were very different from the broader pool of respondents in our survey. So I'm going to go into that in a minute. This is actually what Jess had mentioned earlier. Going through your handouts, you have the ability to download this entire report as well and consume all the data. So let's get started and get into the head of a healthcare CFO, if you will. All right, so one big stat that I'm going to talk about is that 92% of healthcare finance leaders we surveyed believe that technology will significantly impact their roles in the next 3 years. Now, this is interesting because this is compared to 86% of other industries. So quite a bit more opportunity in the healthcare space for finance leaders to leverage technology. I don't want to say that perhaps they're behind, but we know that electronic medical records, e-prescribing, all of the different tools, home health aids, things like that are permeating healthcare. There's opportunity for finance to be pulled into that and to take advantage of all of the connectedness that's happening in other areas of their practices or their healthcare organizations. So it's one thing to watch. 95% of our healthcare respondents believe that more of their finance processes could be automated to improve efficiencies. And this was compared to, 81% of overall respondents. So a little bit even more of a separation from the pack. And if we think about healthcare organizations, you have a billing system or your electronic your electronic medical record system, and how much of things are you pulling out of all of these different places? How much data? How many times do you have to pull something into Excel to understand referrals or potential reimbursements, or pulling patient information out and being able to slice and dice it? If you didn't have to do that, what could you potentially save in terms of time or manpower? What else could you be doing? So I'm not surprised to see these results when I look at our survey and find that, CFOs or healthcare finance leaders want to be able to do more in this area. I think, again, it's another area where there's a tremendous amount of opportunity if the timing is right. 77% of our healthcare respondents expect to spend more time on technology in the next 3 years. So we know that the healthcare organizations out there as a whole are spending an immense amount of time from a clinical perspective in technology, right? It's part of their everyday workflow. It's interesting to see that the finance team is better, is in the same boat, or is looking to do more as well. This was a little bit less actually than our greater population of our survey respondents, but interesting nonetheless. And then 72% of our respondents plan to tackle digital transformation projects in the next 3 years. And this is compared to 61% of the overall survey population. So for as much digital transformation has taken place in healthcare thus far with regards to EMRs and other tools, especially coming out of the pandemic where care was forced into the home or in a virtual area or a virtual realm, there is much more that can be done from a finance perspective around digital transformation. And that's something that I'm going to get into a little bit here, and then I'm going to have Heather come on and we're going to jump into Microsoft Azure, and we're going to learn more about how that can be leveraged as well, and the success that Microsoft is seeing with their customer base. All right. So before we get to digital transformation, let's talk about some of the things that came out of this survey from a healthcare perspective that, when you lean into technology, all of these stats around expecting to spend more time with technology, needing to undertake digital transformation, needing to expand automated processes, these 4 buckets on this slide are really what CFOs and healthcare finance leaders are looking to accomplish as a result of these projects. This is something we hear time and time again with our customers around what the pain they're trying to solve and the things that they're looking to achieve on behalf of their organizations. And if you look at them, they're very strategic. They're not low-level activities. So we're really seeing this, and this goes to this research report that we recently did, in that the changing role of the CFO, it really is becoming, the finance group, the CFO is really becoming a much more strategic function within a company, and you're seeing CFOs, eyeing the CEO seat or the corner office. And this is really an indication of that shift. And so, in today's realm, in today's market, profitability is key. Growth has been a challenge the last few years. So really looking for ways, leveraging the technology that you have, pulling data in from multiple sources so that you have a very good understanding of the financial health of the business is going to help you understand what levers can I pull in order to find the most profitability. How do I reduce my costs over here? How do I tweak pricing on this, or tweak the services that I can offer to increase revenue on this side of the business? And what happens if we can do this for the future, and being able to predict rather than report on the past. Competition is fierce out there, so integrating all of that data, whether it's financial and clinical, operational, even regulatory data, it allows you to paint that full picture where you can model and plan and truly become competitive in your market. There's a lot of patients out there that need care. There's oftentimes a shortage of coverage for that care, or a shortage of access to that care. So how do you stay ahead of not only the competition that's in your area, but with the rise in telemedicine and virtual care, that's new competition that we have to think about. So, having all of that data at your fingertips in your financial system is key, because it's real time. It's not, once you pull it out of any data sources, if it's not integrated, you're modeling based off of out-of-date data. 5-minute-old data is not live. It's not real time. When you leverage technology in the right ways, you are delighting your employees, right? So think about the bigger picture. People want to be working in the latest tools. They want to have the convenience of working from anywhere or at their own pace. And they want to be able to do their best work. And really, technology is an enabler of that. And if you're able to not only put folks using the right systems, but also empower them to do what they need to do to automate the basic work, so they're doing the important work, you're going to retain employees. You're going to have happier employees. And let's face it, in today's labor economy, everyone wants to hold on to the folks that they value and that are contributing to the business. And the last point I'm going to make goes back to that sense, that concept of the growth and the change of the CFO and the finance function. You want to be that strategic partner, and technology is really going to get you there. The CFO has lines into every area of the business. Finance touches everything. You want to be able to provide your various stakeholders all of the insights that they need in order to make decisions, knowing where is their particular P&L, how are their clinicians performing. If you have novel compensation strategies in place for your physicians, you want to be able to make them aware of how they're performing against specific metrics. What are they going to get paid on at the end of the month? And then lastly, as a strategic partner, you do want to be in the driver's seat of that digital transformation. And that's really the great segue to bring on Heather so that we can talk about how you can really expand your technology ecosystem. I'll trade my little ecosystem map for Heather's here, and we can talk about digital transformation in healthcare. So, hi, Heather.
Hi, Mel. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm going to let you take it away from here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Sage and Sage Intacct in particular has been such a great partner to Microsoft. We at Microsoft are very passionate about empowering our healthcare customers to achieve more. And of course, financial software that Sage Intacct provides is a very crucial part of that setup. So glad that you had us on today. And we can talk a little bit about the partnership between Sage Intacct and Microsoft and what that means for all the folks on the call here.
And we definitely have had a long-standing partnership over time, and we've really, in the last few years, have taken quite a few steps to really deepen that partnership. So I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad we're able to do this together.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to just give everyone on the phone a level set today on, what specifically we talk about when we talk about in terms of the Microsoft Sage partnership. So Microsoft Azure, which is Microsoft's premier cloud computing ecosystem, is really home to a lot of the data and the applications and the digital experiences of many of the largest healthcare companies on earth. Right, so we support many of the big names in large pharma, in the large hospital systems, in the payer networks, et cetera. And of course, we have a very extensive partner ecosystem in the healthcare space as well, ranging from Epic with their EMR system to a number of different technology partners that provide a lot of the critical experiences that power digital healthcare today. And one of our partnerships, of course, is with Sage. So when you sort of buy into the Microsoft ecosystem, you can have confidence that you're backed by a wide network of different capabilities that run on our platform. And actually, over 75% of healthcare organizations use Azure. So similar to Sage, we support some of the smallest, most privately owned, provider-owned clinics, all the way up to some of these large conglomerates that almost operate like 10 different companies within themselves. And so there's a couple of different reasons that healthcare customers choose Microsoft and Azure in particular, and why we decided it made sense to run Sage Intacct as sort of a SaaS platform on the Microsoft Healthcare Cloud. And of course, some of the biggest benefits that customers realize come from not having a lot of those traditional latency and availability issues that came with trying to run this software on-prem, right? If you think about sort of the traditional way that a lot of accounting software was run, someone would buy accounting software, sign an expensive contract, go and have to take all of the sort of little bits of that software and have very large machines in some sort of custom data center that we're going to run that, and then allow all of the finance department of a particular healthcare company to then leverage that. And what we often saw in that paradigm was there would be often frequent downtime when those technology IT teams were needing to cycle machines and this and that. There were a lot of issues that came from folks just not being able to access the software when they needed to, because they didn't have the backups and the things necessary to make sure that there was good reliability in how those things were being served to the customer base. And so by running Sage Intacct on Azure as a SaaS platform, Microsoft can take care of a lot of the concerns around that, where there's very limited downtime. We make sure that there's very low latency so that customers get the best performance that they can out of when they're trying to leverage the software. We have situations where, if for some reason your company grows very, very fast and all of a sudden you have to, double or triple the size of your finance team, it's really easy to get that additional capacity you need to support all of those additional users. And you don't have to worry about having to manage all sort of the back end infrastructure to support the growing and the scalability of your finance teams. And then really the big reason that we see a lot of customers relying on Microsoft Azure today is around the security and the compliance things that are natively baked into the platform. And I really want to double click on that, because I know when we talk about healthcare, of course, it's a very highly regulated industry. You have regulatory bodies not only in the United States, but really all around the world that we need to make sure that we're adhering to the best practices and the compliance and legality that they set forth and so on. And so really go ahead. No.
I don't want to interrupt you, but let's go back. I want to just touch base on, you mentioned that you have the ability to scale as you grow. And I think that that's an important thing to talk about, because, we often work at Sage Intacct, we often work with very small healthcare companies that all of a sudden will go acquire another practice or acquire another practice. And then all of a sudden their business model has completely shifted. And we're able to scale with them without a second thought. And I think there's a lot of synergies in what you were talking about, in that, there's really something for everyone. And this is kind of, in today's day and age, you really don't want to have to rethink a technology investment when you've after you've gone through the process of making that decision and vetting that vendor and implementing and going live. I mean, we all know how this works in healthcare. It's a process. When you choose an EMR system, for example, or if you're an insurer with a claim system, it's a process. So it's good to hear that, like Sage, Microsoft is able to allow that scalability without friction, if you will, so that they can grow alongside you. And I think the other point, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that flexibility is key to a lot of our customers. And it really helps not only in the situation where the company rapidly expands, but, if your company has downtime certain times of the year and the software isn't in use very much during those times, you're not on the expense for maintaining things that aren't in use during that period. And so really that ultimate flexibility, both to scale out as needed, but then also scale down when certain resources just aren't being used.
Yep. And I think the security and compliance piece is another really important one to touch on. I think, you are completely right in that global regulatory rules and regulations are very varied. You have HIPAA in the US, GDPR in the UK. So there's a different flavor no matter where you go. And then I think also tied to that is, depending on what type of healthcare organization you are, you also have a different appetite for HIPAA compliance and things like that. There's a different in some specialty areas, it might be more important than in others, just because of the nature of the service that you're providing. And so being able to figure out, what do I need from a cloud security perspective overall? And then I know from a Sage Intacct perspective, deciding with customers, do I want HIPAA compliance within my financial management system? If I'm issuing, say, patient refunds and there's a name on an invoice or a name on a bill in Sage Intacct, is that, do I need HIPAA compliance for that? Am I okay with shouldering that, or do I need to do something different? Having those options and making the decision that's right for the organization and that's right for your team is important. And I love the fact that, you almost have double layer of security with Microsoft and with Sage, because you have that ability to kind of layer on the security as you need and as you feel like your organization needs.
Exactly. And that's really what the Azure and the Microsoft ecosystem at large is all about, is making sure that we've laid the groundwork for our customers to really hit on the basic components of what's needed for HIPAA compliance, ISO, all the FDA, DICOM, high trust, all that good stuff. Both the compliance side, but also the interoperability side as well, right? Some of these are standards that aren't mandated by law, but that make it much easier for companies to sort of interoperate with one another throughout the industry, which is something the industry is in dire need of, for us to be able to continue to advance forward and reduce a lot of the complexity that's really holding the healthcare industry back compared to a lot of the other industries that are adopting technology at a much faster pace. And
it's
so
hard, that's been something that's been plaguing this industry for forever. But,
exactly.
It's come a long way in the last 20 years. I think breaking down those silos and really pushing towards true interoperability it's a process, but it's getting better. And I think it's a nice, the fact that, you're able to do that from a Microsoft perspective, the fact that Sage Intacct leans into that open API ecosystem. I think there's a lot, I don't want to call it a Band-Aid, but, leaning into that approach and taking, being open to those connections and that connectivity, I think is key. If it was a closed system, we wouldn't be doing anyone any favors, and we wouldn't be helping to bring the healthcare industry forward in its transformation.
Exactly. Yep. So we, are constantly working with our customers and with regulatory bodies across the world to make sure that we have compliance and interoperability standards built into the platform natively for all of our customers to leverage. And of course, Sage Intacct, as our partner, does that as well. And then we're constantly looking to improve the security of the platform as well, right? And of course, threat actors continue to get more and more sophisticated as the years go on, and our team of experts continue to get more and more sophisticated. Generally before they do, which is the hope, but we're always looking to detect things, potential vulnerabilities before they ever reach something that could impact our customers. And we've poured lots of investment and lots of resources and lots of teams of hackers internally that are constantly trying to jailbreak our systems and things to make sure that we're staying a step ahead of potential threat actors. And then, of course, we really value our customers' trust, and we always ensure that customer IP is protected on the platform, right? So we never look to compete with our customers, or privacy, of course, being the most important thing. We never look into or use customer data. That is all strictly the IP of our customers, and we do our utmost to protect that trust.
That's great.
Yeah, so the last thing I really wanted to touch on here, Mel, and I know that Sage and Microsoft have been talking a lot about this, is around, how do we think about future-proofing and being future-ready in the healthcare industry when it comes to financial software? Obviously, the big buzzword in the media for the last year or so has been around generative AI, which is
Yep.
a landscape that's evolving sort of directly underneath us. And Microsoft, of course, has played a huge role in leading the way in terms of adopting and driving a lot of the innovation in generative AI into productivity software at large. And so there's been a lot of conversations we've been having with our customers on the finance side. Of course, with Sage, we've been talking about, how do we think about leaning into AI to help with a lot of the tedious tasks that kind of make up work throughout the day, right? How can we use it to gain more insights and do statement processing or tax preparation or detect fraud even, to help with forecasting? There's so many different applications that we're only beginning to scratch the surface of as a company in relation to our partners like Sage and with our customers as well. And of course, a lot of yeah, go ahead. No.
I was going to say, and if you think about what I mentioned earlier, the more that you can automate with either workflows or AI in this case, that's the basic work that no one really wants to be doing. Like, better to check it than have to spend your day doing it. You're going to end up with a happier team, happier employees, and better satisfaction on the labor force front.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really, the purpose of this technology obviously is not to be an autopilot, right? It's to be a co-pilot and to work with the human workforce and not, compete with it, for example. And so really the goal there is to put the employee in finance in have that automation take care of a lot of that tedium, but then allow them to decide, yes, this makes sense, or no, this doesn't, something went wrong and this needs to be, tweaked in some way, in a minor way, or potentially even, redone entirely. But then that also frees up those folks to think and operate a lot more strategically in the role and work on, the next wave or the next new thing. As opposed to just getting sort of locked into the drudgery of, the tedium of the repetitive tasks day to day.
Yep.
And so I think it's a really exciting time, and I don't think anyone really in the industry knows where this is going in the next 5 years. But I think, at Microsoft and a lot of our partners like Sage are eager to, be humble and learn as we go and see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of good we can do for the healthcare industry and all the patients that we collectively support in this case, both on the finance side of the house, as well as, all the clinical applications with patient care and all the groundbreaking things that are coming along in research as well.
Definitely. There's so much out there in terms of collecting and identifying patient populations for various CMS programs. Looking at, what are my demographics on a certain patient and what does that mean in terms of, likelihood to seek treatment or fall out of a treatment plan and things like that. There's so many different angles to using generative AI, whether it's small tools that remediate menial tasks all the way up to, informing clinical trial candidate pools. The possibilities, as you said, are truly endless, and we're just getting started.
Absolutely. So did we want to move on to some questions?
I'm game if you are. Hi, Jess.
Good questions. That's like,
welcome back.
Genie. You said the magic word and I just appear. We do have some audience questions that I want to get into, but I do want to say to both of you, what an interesting conversation this has been, and I do genuinely mean conversation. I think the back and forth between both of you was really fascinating. We got to kind of come along on what you find really interesting, and some of what you were getting into right at the end, Heather, around this landscape that's evolving under our feet really resonated, and I really do want to echo that sort of that humbleness and that sense of learning that comes from both Sage and Microsoft in terms of being right there alongside everyone in the audience and watching this evolution and growing along with them, which is a really cool kind of cross section, I guess, between the people creating the technology and those utilizing it. And I think that's a really neat thing to be a part of right now that AI has enabled. So thank you both for that. And now I'm going to switch gears back to speaking of all the wonderful folks out there with us, let's get into some of their questions. So let's start with this one because you guys touched on compliance a lot, because obviously this is just top of mind for us and for many in the industry. So when I put something on Azure, am I good to go? I'm fully compliant. I'm done. Is that box checked?
Yeah, so we always like to make sure that customers understand, even though Microsoft Azure creates platforms that are compliant by nature, it is still possible to build an uncompliant solution on top of a compliant foundation. And so we always like to emphasize to customers that compliance is very much something that is a joint accountability between Microsoft and our customer base. And, at Microsoft, we work very closely with our customers and provide sort of guidance and feedback and our experts to make sure that what you're building on our platform is in fact compliant. And so in the case of, Sage, being one of our partners, right, we have experts that collaborate with their experts to make sure that there's an understanding of what compliance pieces are covered by our platform, and then what additional aspects need to be baked into the custom solution that they build on top.
And if I could add to that a little bit, we do something similar at Sage. We can kind of pick up where Heather and the Microsoft team leave off, and we work with our customers really closely as they're doing their implementations to really set up best practices in terms of who has access to what data, what permissions and user roles make the most sense. Because you don't want to give blanket access to someone. That's how breaches happen. And that's how data comes out of the system without permission. So making sure that our customers really think through what is the right level of access for particular roles, and at what point does that get closed off further or expanded is really important, because it can't just be, go live and call it a day and give everyone the keys to the kingdom.
It's very nice when things are one button and go, and it's very rare that we get to do that anymore, right? But actually, both of you just hit on something that I think connects in really well. We got a couple of questions kind of coming in around training and support, and in particular, one audience member was kind of flagging that they have a smaller team, and so they don't have a lot of people that can do implementation and internal training and that ever-present human element, right, side of things. So it sounds like, from what I'm hearing from both of you, there's a lot of customization possible. There's a lot of ways that you can get that support from your teams, and just if there's anything else that you'd like to add to that, either of you.
I would just say, one thing we talk to our customers a lot about is what's the problem you're trying to solve today? Like what really has your hair on fire? And let's solve that first. And you can always add to your plate later. Like let's master and overcome what is keeping you up at night, and then if you want to add functionality or go through learning courses and become a power user on reporting or whatever you might want to tackle next, it's not a one and done type of an engagement. It's let me solve my problem today, and then let me figure out my journey. Like what is phase 2? What is down the yellow brick road to growing the business, or working towards a financial event? And how can technology help get you there? Whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Sage, how do we put you on that path, and allow whatever you decide to bring in at a later date make you successful?
Well, I appreciate that. Other than you now getting "we're off to see the wizard" stuck in my head, which is there for the rest of the day, I'm sure. But Melissa, actually, I'm going to keep the microphone with you because I think you will have some interesting insight here. And this is a really cool question. So we actually did get a question from, we were talking earlier about all of us getting to wear our CFO hats today. So we did get a question from a CFO, but they say, hey, I'm a CFO, healthcare finance leader. I'm not IT. That's a really important thing. So how would you approach building this business case? What is my first logical step? Give the CFO the tech terms that they need, I guess is what we're looking for here.
I think you have to sit down and really think about, what are your requirements? Do you want to be able to work outside of the office? What is the must-have accounting or finance activities that you want to tackle? And really come up with that list. What are the most important things to you? Do you want to be able to have something that's HIPAA compliant? Do you have the bandwidth internally, even though you're not IT, to tackle a project like this? And if not, are you open to working with a third party who perhaps has resources that might be able to help you with an implementation, or could help consult the whole way through and helping you evaluate vendors out there and kind of shepherd that whole process with you? So I think sitting down and rethinking that at first, and then once you start to speak to vendors and learn the lay of the land, start to think about what might also need to change at your organization. We get used to doing things a certain way, right? We don't like it when people move our cheese, especially when it comes to professional stuff, because we just want to go to work and have things happen the way that they should happen and not have to put out fires and fight crises every day, right? But making a change like this, whether it's moving to a cloud platform like Microsoft or investing in a new financial management system like Sage, it's, you have to rethink, like, how is my workflow? How is my everyday going to change? And while it might be a little bit scary, it's also, an opportunity to do things better than perhaps you did before. So kind of figuring out your requirements, and then really looking to figure out, how can I go from here, and how can I make the business better, my day better, be able to take a vacation, be able to sleep at night. And what do those nuts and bolts look like? And I think the nice thing is that with Sage and Microsoft, we do a lot of this back and forth together because of the partnership and the investments that we've made, so that you're not having to necessarily make those decisions independently, because one can sit on top of the other.
Yeah, and I would back that up as well, Mel. The organizational change management is really, I think, where a lot of both the value, but then also the trepidation of making change sort of comes from. And so, I know Microsoft and Sage as well, we're very invested in helping our customers build that business case, which is definitely composed of the very much direct financial implications, right? So you can think about things like tool consolidation that might have positive financial benefits for the business. But then there's a lot of the intangibles as well, where if Sage is going to help make it that much faster to do tax preparations and require just generally fewer hours of labor to do that, right? how can we think about quantifying those things then into sort of a proxy for financial savings and things to help build on that business case as well. And so that's something that, our Microsoft experts are trained to do sort of at large. And I know Sage is definitely willing to help with building those types of business cases as well.
Yep. I always like to say it's about getting to that big project that's been on the side of your desk that you've never had the opportunity to get started on, but is important for the business, and finally being able to set your sights on it and to tackle it because you've been able to optimize the other stuff, right? You've been able to get to the strategic work. And in healthcare, I think that's really where we're seeing our customers needing to spend their time, right? That's the pain they're trying to solve. It's help me get the financials locked down and automated as much as possible so that I can make sure that the business is still here in 5 years, in 10 years, that in light of declining reimbursements, I can go offer new services that are perhaps private pay and get revenue in the door a different way. Because those are the burning questions that they're really looking to answer right now.
Well, I think you've both given us a lot of great sort of ROI arguments and things that either, it kind of works in both ways. Either you are the CFO and you're making that business case, or maybe you need to pitch to your CFO. And so now you have that kind of pre-built case. You've probably already sort of provided some of those standout factors, but we did get a couple of questions coming in wondering about key uniques and kind of standout deliverables. And so maybe I'll just ask you to, of those whole lists you both just given us of all the wonderful things, to sort of narrow in on one or two that you think are really those standout features that you would want people to understand about Sage and Microsoft and this wonderful partnership here. Maybe Melissa, we can start with you and then Heather.
I think with Sage Intacct specifically, this company has invested a lot of time and effort into understanding the needs of the healthcare market specifically, and really making sure that whatever unicorn of a healthcare clinic, healthcare facility is out there, we have the capabilities to understand how they're structured and be able to build the financial management system around their needs. So that would probably be the first one. The second one is, I think, the ability for Sage Intacct to have that HIPAA compliance piece within the financial management system. It really unlocks a whole level of data analysis. If you do choose to bring that data into the system, that you really have it at your fingertips as the CFO or as the finance team to be able to slice and dice your financials by various clinical factors or things like that, so that you have a better understanding of the health of the business or the true cost of delivering care to, whether it's your entire patient population or down to a narrow slice that perhaps is in, say, a value-based care program that you really want to be able to be laser focused on the cost of delivering care to. Heather, I'm going to turn it over to you, see what you've come up with.
Yeah. So, when we talk about Microsoft Azure, really a lot of the value in the platform comes from the level of completeness of it, but also the extensibility of it, right? So when we think about being able to leverage Sage Intacct as a SaaS service on the Azure platform, right? If there's things that can't necessarily be done in the Sage product itself, right? You have the entire Azure ecosystem to plug into to create custom extensions and to integrate different other systems you might have within that as well, right? And so really Azure is all about having that choice and being able to fit the needs of your business through just the expansive variety of different capabilities that we're able to provide to our customers via the platform.
That customization is so important, especially given the fact that we're talking about an industry that tends to reinvent itself. And then, what we were talking about with AI and kind of really having this foundation that's shifting around. So, being able to customize, to grow, to change is a really important, unique, and something that I know that Microsoft does very well. And I think, this partnership, this combination between Sage and Microsoft is hitting just so many tick boxes or someone told me that's very Canadian. I'm supposed to say check boxes. the check boxes for for everyone out there. So I think that there's probably a lot of folks in the audience right now that are thinking, okay, yeah, I'm in, and I want to keep this conversation going. And unfortunately, as we near the end of time, we'll kind of have to send them out into the wilds of the internet. And so for that next step here, we're going to talk about the handouts again in just a second, but I'm wondering if I can ask each of you to kind of give a next step to folks in the audience for how they can get started and kind of what you would recommend doing next. And maybe Melissa, I'll start with you, and then Heather, you can bring us home again.
Yeah, I think, if you're really truly thinking about taking the next step, I think the more that you can do your research, understand what are your, both internally and also externally. So what are your requirements? As I mentioned before, what are you looking to solve? That's really the biggest thing you have to know going in. And then looking at, realistically, am I ready to tackle this? Am I just going to be exploring what's out there, or am I ready to jump into a conversation? And really taking that inward look, understanding your requirements, and then doing your research. I will provide a shameless plug. Visit sage.com. Learn about Sage. Understand if Sage Intact specifically, since we're talking about healthcare, is a fit for your needs, for what you're looking to accomplish, and reach out and have a conversation. It doesn't hurt to have a conversation. It only helps you understand, even at the earliest stages, whether or not this is a potential fit for what you're looking for the future. What about you, Heather?
Yeah, I would second that, right? Definitely visit sage.com if what we've been talking about today, and Sage in particular, is of interest to you. Another option as well, if you're, just thinking broadly about, I want to build something, or, I have teams of folks that want to build something. You can also visit Azure for Healthcare. And we have the ability to engage with live chat with experts on there, who then can sort of route you through the giant Microsoft machine to the right folks that you can talk to about whatever your use case is, and if it makes sense for us to engage and have some conversations or some design sessions or whatever it may be to help you grow your business by building, whether it's automation or some sort of application or set of APIs to really solve your problem or integrate back into existing solutions that you might have.
Well, I love both of those options as next steps, and I think the biggest thing, sometimes when we're really in it, when we're in the thick of it, it's really hard to take that step up and look out and on things instead of being right in it. And I think a lot of what you guys hit on today was freeing up that time and freeing up to hit that, Melissa, as you said, that project that's sitting on your desk and blinking at you. I'm here. Right there. So I think, hopefully that has really sparked for a lot of people, because I think that we can all relate to that feeling of having those projects that are collecting dust while we're fighting in the weeds. So I hope that for those of you out there that sparked right there when Melissa said that you will continue this conversation. There's a couple great ways to do that. One is to continue getting those questions in. I know that we're not getting to all the questions today. There's lots more here. And what we're going to do is make sure that those get sent to Melissa and Heather, to the teams, and you will get responses back from Sage and Microsoft. So please do keep those questions coming in. You'll get some answers back. And the second thing is to visit that handouts tab. And we're going to walk through that in a little bit greater detail in just a second. But before I jump into that, I just want to say one last very heartfelt thank you to Melissa and Heather for joining us today. This has been such a fun conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
All right, and we are going to keep rolling today because we have, as I said, a little more time to get those questions in, so please do get them in. And also, I want to make sure that you've all spent some time in that handouts tab, so make sure you jump in right now and check out. There's a couple of links there. Obviously, one is going to Microsoft. That this is that resource center that we were just talking about with Heather, so you can actually explore. There's some videos, there's some articles, so however you like to take in your learning, there's something for you. If you're visual or if you like to do some reading, there's going to be an answer for you, and you can can start that conversation, as Heather was saying, and get that rolling where, you get a little guidance through the beautiful giant machine that is all the incredible offerings from Microsoft. I'm also going to highly recommend that you spend some time exploring Sage for Healthcare. That's also linked for you in the handouts tab. We really got a little bit of an insight into just how impactful Sage has been in helping thousands of healthcare organizations get that focus on those more strategic initiatives, get to those sparkly, shiny projects on the corner of their desk and really increase that efficiency, especially if you're thinking about growth and scalability. So those are really important places to start. There's also that research report that Mel was talking about right at the start. So if those opening stats just pricked your ears open, and Melissa covered a lot of really important information there. So there's tons more to dig into in that research report. The secrets of a successful CFO, right? It's going to explore the frontiers of financial leadership and really digging into those core competencies and visionary approaches of today's most effective finance leaders. So if you think that's you, then you'll find some stories that maybe resonate with what you're already doing. And if you're not sure that's you, but you want it to be you, then you can read that report and take some of those pieces of advice and put them into action in your organization. So some great handouts in the handouts tab for you, and lots of ways to get started and carry this conversation forward as you head out of the webinar today. Well, all right, I put up the shiny little prize icon, and that means it is time for a prize giveaway. We have a $250 Amazon gift card going to someone who was here live and present at the webinar today, and that special someone is Brad Pijot from Mississippi, possibly Brad Pijot, depending on how we're pronouncing this today. But Brad Pijot or Brad Pijot from Mississippi, you have won a $250 Amazon gift card. Congratulations to you, Brad. Now, as always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after we wrap up the webinar. And I do also want to remind you about that $50 Best Question gift card. We'll be looking at all the questions asked during the session today, and we'll follow up with those winners as well. Well, with that, on behalf of the Smart Brief team, I want to once again thank Sage and Microsoft for making this webinar possible, especially to Heather and to Melissa for such an interesting conversation, for helping us put on our CFO hats today. Maybe yours is kind of like a cowboy hat. Maybe your CFO hat is a little more of like a fez. Whatever your CFO hat looks like. If you are already wearing a CFO hat, maybe we put some extra sparkles and glitter on that for you, because today we all got to think a little bit with that growth mindset, with that strategic approach, getting out of that day-to-day and thinking about that forward look that is really enabled by integrating data into our financial planning tools. And that is a really exciting opportunity for healthcare businesses like all of yours. So of course, my biggest high five, my biggest thank you of the day goes to all of you out there for taking some time out of your day, for taking that step out of the day-to-day work that you all do that is piling up, I know, and I'm going to let you get back to it, and spending time with us to learn and to think about some of these exciting innovations and what this could mean for your organization, because they truly are impactful things to be considering. So thank you so much for taking the time to come and join in that discussion with us today. I hope that I'll get to see you all again soon. And until then, I hope you have an absolutely beautiful end to your day. Thanks all.